welcome to those that have joined me. My name is Beven. I'm the CEO of Pioneer Minerals, and today I just really want to go through in detail and quite comprehensively our exploration results to date at the Springfield Prospect, which is a part of our North Pine project located in Idaho. We've got some pretty exciting results which have been released recently, particularly in regards to the magnetic survey. And I'm going to walk through, I guess, all of the results here at Springfield bit by bit. And so I can explain and just build the story of where we're at the moment and why we're really quite excited about the project overall. So I'll just bring up the presentation to go alongside it and we'll get going. So once again, my name is Beven, CEO of Pioneer Minerals, and welcome to the presentation. Today we're going to be discussing the North Pine project located in Idaho, and specifically focusing on the Springfield Tungsten project and also Silver Cliffs. So just to get started, I'll just talk a little bit about tungsten. Some people are new to the tungsten space, don't quite understand it at the moment, how valuable it is and also how critical it is. Tungsten is a critical mineral. And importantly, what we see is that China controls 83% of the world's tungsten supply. But not only do they control that supply, but they're also the world's largest importer of tungsten as well. Now, early in 2025, tungsten banned exports of tungsten to the US, which obviously puts an extreme chokehold on the tungsten supply to the US globally. And with the geopolitical situation we're in at the moment, with the US looking to re-industrialize and pump up their manufacturing, tungsten is absolutely critical for manufacturing. Anything that requires metal, tungsten is absolutely critical for. So not only that though, not only for manufacturing, but also when you look at defense, it's particularly important for defense, for armor plating, and also armor piercing ammunition as well. So at the moment, the US has no current open tungsten mines. It's not producing any tungsten at all. China completely controls the supply of it. And that's why it's one of the most critical minerals for the US. Some say the only true critical mineral. Now, what we see is it's directly reflected in the price. So the pricing of tungsten is done as, you'll see it referred to as an MTU. Now, just to explain what that is, an MTU essentially means 10 kilograms. 10 kilograms of tungsten is what you'll see as an MTU. So back in early 2025, 1 MTU of tungsten was generally around about high $300s to $400 per 10 kilograms. And what we've seen since then is an absolute massive spike in the price. And the most recent price was $1,250 per MTU. So to put that in perspective, perhaps into some sort of metrics that people understand easily, that's about $125,000 per ton is the value of tungsten at the moment. So it is one of the most valuable metals that's used in manufacturing and defense and so forth. And this price increase that we've seen doesn't look like it's slowing down at the moment, because there's no new tungsten which is coming onto the market in the short term. So supply is absolutely choked. The Chinese market absolutely dominates it, and tungsten looks like it's really on its way to a massive breakout. So that's just how the tungsten pricing works, and generally sort of what it's used for. So that brings us to the actual North Pine project, which is located in Idaho. Now, just to give you some reference as to what it is and what I'm talking about here, we have 3 parcels of land that make up the North Pine project. And these parcels of land are each a prospect. So there'll be a few different names here, but I'll be referring predominantly to the Springfield Prospect down the bottom here, which is where we have a historic tungsten mine. And then I'll be talking about the Silver Cliffs Prospect as well. Now, where these are in Idaho, you may be familiar with the Stibnite Gold Project, which Petra Resources own. They have a $2.2 billion market cap, 6.5 million ounces of gold sitting there. And back in the 50s, the Yellow Pine Mine, which was the historic mine Stibnite Gold Project, was once the world's or the US's largest producer of tungsten and antimony. So that's the sort of caliber of the mineral systems in the geology that we're in. And right next door to those, we have Resolution Minerals and their Horse Heaven Antimony project. You may have seen some absolutely fantastic gold intercepts and drill results from them recently. That's all very particular relevant to our Silver Glyphs prospect. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. And that just gives you an idea of, I guess, the size of the companies, the caliber of the geology, and what we're looking for here as well. So I'll just jump straight to the Springfield prospect, and just to point it out, that's this bottom most tenement holding down the bottom here. And we're going to just go through some of the history. So the historic Springfield mine, it was found back in 1945, and it produced tungsten in the early 50s by Bradley Mining Co. Bradley Mining Co. being the same company that mined the Yellow Pine mine, the largest tungsten deposit in the US. It was essentially found because it was outcropping, right? So the mineralization is sticking out the side of the hill. You can see that in the photo here. And what they really did is they just mined the material that had fallen down off the cliff, produced a tungsten concentrate from that. And when Yellow Pine came into full production, they didn't mine here anymore at all. They shut it down and moved on. Now, there's only 1,900 feet of historic drilling that was ever done here by Bradley Mining Co. They very much targeted just the small outcropping deposit. They didn't do any sort of broader exploration work in any sort of way. So they really didn't look through this area along strike anywhere to see if there was further mineralization, if it was at depth, or whatnot. So it's completely unexplored. 1,900 feet of drilling is not enough to determine anything. So really quite good. Now, historically, there were about 39,000 tons of ore that were mined there, and they reported an average grade of about 0.35 to 0.4% of tungsten in the actual ore body. Now, the old reports on the deposit state that they estimate there's around about 151,000 tons of material remaining here at 0.3%. Now, I just want to be clear, that's not anything like a JORC compliant resource or anything like that. These were just back of the envelope calculations that Bradley Mining Co. did back in the day. And there's nowhere near sufficient data to, I guess, qualify that. But it is an indication that they think that there's still mineralization left there. And obviously, because it hasn't been drill tested, there's no real boundaries around the extent of that. So knowing that, we went out to the site and we did the first round of on-the-ground investigation, took a bunch of rock chips. And what we really wanted to do here is we wanted to confirm that the grade was there. To give you an idea of tungsten grades, what's significant, what's not. Majority of the tungsten deposits in the world that are sort of resources or were or are producing were normally around about 0.1 to 0.2%. A cutoff for a resource would normally be 0.1%. And if it's a high-grade resource or high-grade deposit, you'd normally use a 0.3% cutoff. So we know here that in the past, they'd referred to 0.3, 0.4% as sort of average grade. So we're thinking, we're operating in a higher grade skarn-like environment. We went out and we identified around the mine site in the rock face, took 77 rock chips in total, took really quite a good representation of the rocks around there. And what we're able to do is confirm that the grades here are really quite good in the mineralization that we found. So a lot of results that came back above 0.5%, up to 1%, 2% even. And so you can see that table there. They're just some of the highlights. This was excellent because it confirmed to us that what was reported in the past as far as the grades, which we consider to be an economic grade, are real, and they are there, and they're still remaining at the site. So that's really exciting. The picture you can see in the middle, the nice glowy picture, this is the actual scheelite. So the scheelite is the mineral which holds the tungsten in the rock. So if you put it under a shortwave black light, a UV light, it'll glow. So it's excellent. So when you're drilling it, when you're working on it, you can actually use a black light. You can actually visibly see the scheelite, the tungsten in the rocks, which is really quite exciting. So these 6 samples we sent off for a petrographic description, which is where you basically slice the rock up and look at it under a microscope. I'll talk more a little bit about the meaning and the results of that, but we sent those off. And then on the right-hand side, which is also relevant, you can get an idea here. If you look at this large silvery yellow, I'll just call it a sulfide, but mineral that you can see here through the rock, This is predominantly a mineral that we call pyrrhotite, which is a sulfide. It's an iron sulfide and it's magnetic. And what we see here at the Prospect and at Springfield is we have a lot of this magnetic sulfide in the ore body and associated with the actual scheelite, the actual tungsten itself. So this was good because we're able to establish the grades here are good. We're looking at economic grades. We've confirmed what was sort of reported historically and also identify that there's a really strong association here between this massive pyrrhotite, which is magnetic, which will become important as we go. Now, one thing I will just touch on is that this area and this project was never explored for gold in the past. It was purely just tungsten. They didn't look at the gold at all. And what we found in the rock chip sampling is that there are actually quite a few samples here with really quite significant gold in them. So if you look at sample 48 as an example, this returns 7.75 grams per ton gold, another 1.49 grams per ton, 4.4, and then just quite a few as well, which came back 0.3, 0.4, and so forth. So this was the first indication that not only do we have tungsten at the site, but we've also got quite significant grades of gold in some samples, which is quite exciting. So this slide will show you, I guess, where those rock chip samples were taken from and a distribution of the grades. And anything that's purple here is above 0.4% tungsten, which is really quite high grade. You can see we've got quite a good distribution of it here. But I just wanted to point out in this image, these gold samples here, S48 and S46, up in the very south of the prospect as well. And there's never been any exploration, any drilling, anything done north. Now, if we look at S48, which is this sample we see down here, this is purely gold in sulfides in a granite. So very, very interesting because we know that this tungsten mineralization is associated with limestones, skarns, which I'll talk about a little bit more, which is a different sort of rock type. But then to have, quite high gold in the granite very nearby sort of indicates that there's an associated gold, well, potentially there's a gold system here as well, which is completely untapped. So that's something that we're certainly going to be targeting as well. The tungsten primarily as well, but we're really going to be following up this gold because I think there might be something quite exciting here. Now, going back to those 6 samples that were nice and glowy that we sent off that have the scheelite in them, and we sent off for the petrography, which is the looking at under a microscope. What you can see here, the sample on the left-hand side, this is just a close-up picture of the rocks. And what you can see, actually all of these rocks, pretty much the whole rock, except for these little white bits in them, this is all pyrrhotite. So this is all that sulfide, that iron sulfide, which is magnetic. And then within that iron sulfide, which is magnetic, we get little bits of the granite that are sort of left over, and then we get the scheelite as well, the actual tungsten mineral. So this is what it looks like under the microscope on the right-hand side. The PO is the pyrrhotite, and then the FCH is the scheelite. So this is the grain with the tungsten in it, and then you can see it's absolutely surrounded and also cross-cut by the pyrrhotite, the magnetic sulfide. So from this that we can tell that the magnetic sulfide and the tungsten mineralization occurred at about the same time, right? Because they're intruded in around each other, cross-coming through and so forth. So we get a sense that these 2 different types of mineralization occurred at roughly the same time and have a direct association, right? So we automatically know now the mineralization here is very closely linked to the pyrrhotite and the abundance of pyrrhotite, which is magnetic. And I think maybe you can see where I'm going here. So late last year, we completed a airborne magnetic and radiometric survey. We did it over all 3 of the prospects within the project area. And these are the results that we found at Springfield. And I will be honest with you, this is better than I could have ever expected. So before I go into the results, what I'll just say is what I actually expected to find here is that there'd be a magnetic anomaly directly under the historic mine and associated with the mine, just a small magnetic anomaly. And then what I was hoping to find is that elsewhere on the tenement holding, we might find 1 or 2 other discrete magnetic anomalies, which might be, other tungsten skarns or other tungsten mineralization. What I didn't expect to find is this giant magnetic anomaly, which sits directly beneath the mine and pretty much runs the length of the tenement north and south. So this is really, really quite exciting. I'll explain a little bit more as we go. But you can see here on the right-hand side, this is with a tilt image. So this just basically makes the magnetics a bit sharper. You can see all of these squiggly lines here on the left and on the right. This is the signature of the actual granite, so the actual body around it. And then you can see, there's a very big difference between the magnetic signature of the anomaly and the host rocks around it. We've got the samples that we collected at Springfield here plotted up over it. And you can see that the mine and the tungsten and the grays we've got in the rocks sit directly over this large magnetic anomaly. So this is really, really quite exciting. If we look at what this potentially means, we'll talk about the interpretation of what this means now, I guess. So there are two ways that we can interpret what this magnetic anomaly is. The first thing is that this large magnetic anomaly represents what we call a roof pendant, which is an old bit of rock which was originally there. It has things like limestones and schists and things like that in it. And these are a chemical trap for metals. So when the Idaho batholith, when the granite came in, it basically gobbled up all the existing rocks that were there. But where that granite comes into contact with any of the limestones of a roof pendant, that's where you get tungsten skarn mineralization, right? So that's the classic model for the formation of a tungsten skarn, where the granite comes in contact with the limestone. And essentially the interpretation is, one of the interpretations is that this large magnetic anomaly here is a huge roof pendant. Now, it was traditionally only thought, that there was just one tiny little discrete roof pendant here at Springfield, and that's what hosted the mine. But now we have evidence that potentially this roof pendant extends the length of the tenement and is undercover and isn't outcropping. And so the size of the potential target that we have here to host tungsten mineralization is exponentially higher. Pretty much anywhere along the contact and close to this magnetic anomaly has the potential to have those rocks, those limestones, to host the actual mineralization, tungsten mineralization as well. So instead of just thinking about one or two areas within the tenement that we might be able to drill to try and find more, now we have a huge target and a huge area to search. All of it is prospective for this, and it matches the magnetic signature of the historic mine as well. So better result than I could possibly imagine, to be honest with you. Now, the alternate interpretation of what this could be is that this is actually all pyrrhotite, right? That magnetic sulfide, which is intruded in and is associated with the tungsten at Springfield as well. So we need to work out which one it is. Now, I'll just be clear. If this was all pyrrhotite, which we know has that association with the tungsten, I won't say now that the whole thing is going to be mineralized, right? That would be an absolute dream, perfect scenario. But what it means, because we just do have that really strong association with the pyrrhotite and the scheelite, if this is all pyrrhotite that's making this magnetic anomaly, then again, it is very, very positive for further discovery or increasing the size of the Springfield mine and what was sort of traditionally explored there. And I just want to reiterate as well that outside of that 1,800 feet of drilling that was done at that mine, that tiny point there's been no drilling on this tenement at all in the history of the tenement. This is the first magnetic survey that's been done in 70 years. For the last 70 years, in fact, every person that's ever looked at this says, we need to do a magnetic survey. Never been done. We've done it, and absolutely fantastic results. So I'm really, really happy with the results so far. So Springfield is looking fantastic. Like I said, we've got the mine there. We've confirmed the grades. We've confirmed the association with the pyrrhotite. We now know we've got a giant magnetic anomaly that runs under the tenement, and we have a real potential here to either find more pods of mineralization like Springfield along it, and or find zones where Springfield may be continuous associated with this magnetic anomaly. So really, really excited. You can probably tell. I can't wait to get out there as soon as the snows melt. I'll switch on to Silver Cliffs now, which is another prospect that we have within the North Pine project itself. A little bit of different geology and different targeting here, but I'll walk you through it really quite quickly. So the Silver Cliffs prospect, you can see in the left-hand map is with the black outline. This is our claim holding here. This is directly adjacent and next door to Resolution Minerals. And you can see in the north, these are their drill holes that they plotted for their Golden Gate targets. I don't know if you're following them or not, but they've had some fantastic drill results here at the moment. We're talking, 240 odd meters at 0.6 grams per ton gold running through this zone. So this zone that they're targeting, you can see this brown line on the map that runs north and south. This is known as the Johnson Creek Fault. There's a large fault area here, tectonic fault that runs through. And we actually targeted this area initially and pegged this area here because you can see a mark on the map here called the Silver Cliff Mine. Now, this is a site where antimony was historically mined. And the old report said that there was an aplite. So an aplite is a type of granite, which an aplite lode, which ran to the northeast, was about 350 meters wide and about 1.6 kilometers long. And that lode had antimony in it. The Silver Cliff Mine was chasing some of that antimony, right? So that's what we were chasing here, this long shear zone. But the historic reports as well very clearly state that what they call Golden Gate South, which also in the past used to be called Copper King, that mineralized fault, which this antimony was on, runs through and connects to Golden Gate South. So that's why I went after this bit of ground here, because it looked like it had the potential to have a really quite large mineralized zone. Thankfully, it looks like Resolution Minerals are really proving that point for us. They're drilling an aplite, they're drilling the shear zone, and they're coming up with really large intercepts of gold. We've only been out there just to do relative little actual sampling. We did as much as we could with the time that we had before the snows came in. But we found, 3 grams per ton gold in rock chips. Another one here is 1 gram per ton, 34 grams per ton silver, 0.1% antimony as well. So, and a lot of the other rock chips, came back with 0.3, 0.4, 0.5%, 0.3, 0.4 grams per ton gold in them as well. A lot like the drill intercepts that were received by Resolution Minerals. So obviously we're just rock chip sampling at the moment. They have drill results, so I don't want to make a direct comparison there. But it is really encouraging to show that the same fault which connects their prospects to ours and our ground, we found stuff at surface which is mineralized, and it has this type of grade similar to what they're getting in their drill intercepts, and just adds more credibility to the fact that we have a really mineralized shear zone here with real potential. Now, we did the magnetic survey over here as well, and the results are actually a little bit surprising and great as well. So the right side image shows the magnetic interpretation, and a lot like Springfield, you can see here this north-south image, which is cross-cut by magnetic anomaly, I should say, which is cross-cut by all these faults. And these are also interpreted to be a roof pendant. So another roof pendant, so a bit of old rock that was intruded by the granite and is sitting here and has the potential to trap mineralization. So this has really opened Silver Cliffs up, because now not only are we looking at Silver Cliffs as far as, testing this fault which runs through just purely in the granite, but now we have a secondary target to explore here with the potential to host tungsten as well. So really quite exciting, because there's 2 pathways for us to pursue here. So that's sort of where we're at the moment with the project, and I think you can probably tell why I'm excited by it as well. Springfield is just looking like it has huge potential, absolute amazing potential. The geophysicist that did our interpretation for us, Nick Dyrene from Idaho Geophysics, one of probably Australia's leading tungsten, both geologist and geophysicist, to be honest with you. He lives in Tasmania. He's done all of the studies on all of the Tasmanian tungsten deposits. He absolutely knows what he's talking about. So he's excited by this. I'm excited by this. It's really, really excellent. And then Silver Cliffs, obviously, we've got potential here for that gold play like Resolution Minerals do, and the unknown associated with this magnetic anomaly. We do have some, when we did this field program, we did take some samples from the tailings that were sitting there at Springfield. So you remember I said there's approximately 27,000 tons at about 0.1 to 0.2% tungsten at the actual Springfield mine itself. We took some samples of that. We've sent it off to Mineral Technologies. They're doing metallurgical recovery work on that at the moment, working out if we can beneficiate it and increase that grade and recover tungsten from it. But also we're going to get a lot of information about the magnetic material which is in those tailings that was historically mined, which will really help us sort of build our model further and link it back to this magnetic anomaly. So that test work is underway. It's quite advanced at the moment, so I do expect the results for that in the next week or two. And in the meantime, we're also progressing the work with the US Forestry Services to make sure that we're able to clear the historic mine track road that leads into actual Springfield, so we can get our guys in and out there a lot faster, and then also preparing for drilling as well. Now, before we go and drill this, if I had the money, I would put 100 drill holes here everywhere. But what we need to do is we really need to have a really intensive program, 2 or 3 weeks, investigating this magnetic anomaly, walking every mountain, every hill in Idaho, and really just confirming, all right, where can we find the pyrrhotite? Where can we find the limestones? Where do we see the oxidization? Because it's never been done here. People haven't looked anywhere beyond the actual mine itself. So we need to walk all of this, work out where the best places are to drill, and then plan our drilling as well. So working through the approvals with the USFS, planning for the next field program, and also we have all of that recovery and characterization work underway. So really quite exciting for Pioneer. I think this is just an absolutely fantastic project. I'm so happy. But that's really it, folks. That's where we're at. Big things to come. As soon as the snow melts, we're out there. And if you have any questions or want to talk to me further about this, please give me a phone call. You can give me a call anytime and I'll talk you through it, spend as much time with you as you like. And apart from that, thanks very much for joining the webinar, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.